They called it progress, a breakthrough in human compassion. The guillotine was meant to end centuries of torture and suffering. It was designed to make death quick, painless, and equal for everyone. But instead, it became one of the most efficient killing machines in history. Over 40,000 people lost their heads to this blade. Kings, queens, revolutionaries, and even innocent children all met the same fate. This is the story of how good intentions created a monster. Before the guillotine, executions in France were brutal and unequal. If you were rich and sentenced to death, you had a privilege. A professional executioner would use a sharp sword for a clean beheading. Quick, relatively painless. But if you were poor, your death was agony. You might be burned at the stake, broken on the wheel where your bones were smashed one by one, or hanged slowly. The method depended on your social class. This system wasn't about justice, it was about spectacle and punishment. Even the supposedly merciful beheading wasn't reliable. Swords got dull, hands shook, and sometimes it took multiple strikes. By the late 1700s, Enlightenment thinkers began questioning this cruelty. Could there be a more humane way to kill? Enter Dr. Joseph-Ignace Guillotin. He was a physician, a politician, and a reformer who believed society could be fairer and more humane. In 1789, he proposed that all executions should be carried out by a single, mechanical device, making death instant and painless for everyone, regardless of social status. Guillotin didn't invent the machine, but he championed the idea so passionately that it eventually bore his name, a name he would come to regret. The actual design came from surgeon Antoine Louis and engineer Tobias Schmidt. Together, they built a prototype, a tall wooden frame, a heavy, angled blade, and a mechanism to drop it with enough force to sever a head in less than a second. On April 25, 1792, the guillotine was used on a human for the first time. The victim was a highway robber named Nicolas Jacques Pelletier. The blade dropped, his head fell into a basket, and it was over in an instant. The crowd was disappointed. They'd expected drama and suffering. Instead, they got quiet efficiency. But the authorities were thrilled. It was fast, reliable, and required no skill to operate. Anyone could pull the rope, and soon, almost everyone would. The guillotine arrived at the perfect, or perhaps the worst, moment in history. France was in chaos, the revolution was spreading, and with it, violence. In 1793, the reign of terror began. Revolutionary leaders decided that anyone who opposed the revolution was an enemy of the people and deserved death. The guillotine became the revolution's most powerful weapon. King Louis XVI was one of the first major victims. On January 21, 1793, thousands watched as the blade fell. The monarchy was dead. 9 months later, his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, followed. She climbed the scaffold, accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot, and apologized. Then the blade fell. But the killing didn't stop with the royals. Revolutionary leader Maximilien Robespierre believed that terror was the only way to protect the revolution. He said, "Terror is nothing but justice, prompt, severe, and inflexible." Under his orders, the guillotine worked day and night. Nobles, priests, political rivals, shopkeepers, farmers, even a 14-year-old girl, beheaded for crying when her father was executed. The guillotine didn't care about guilt or innocence, only efficiency. In Paris alone, over 2,800 people were executed in just 1 year. Blood ran in the streets, and the smell of death hung over the city. Then came the ultimate irony. Robespierre himself, the man who had sent thousands to the guillotine, was arrested. On July 28, 1794, he was executed by the same machine he had weaponized. His jaw had been shattered during his arrest, so he screamed in agony as the blade fell. Poetic justice, some called it. Between 1792 and 1794, the guillotine officially executed over 16,000 people. Here's where the story gets even darker. Scientists began asking a disturbing question. Does the brain stay conscious after decapitation? Witnesses reported seeing decapitated heads blink, move their eyes, or even try to speak. In a famous case from 1905, a doctor observed the head of an executed man named Henri Languille. He called out the man's name, and the eyes opened and focused on him. He called again, and the eyes opened a second time. Modern neuroscience suggests this is possible. For a few seconds after decapitation, there might be enough oxygen in the brain for consciousness to remain. This means victims could have seen their own bodies and experienced their own death. The humane execution was anything but. France didn't abolish the death penalty until 1981, and the guillotine was used right up until the end. The last person executed by guillotine was Hamida Jandoubi on September 10, 1977. By then, the machine had become an embarrassment. When the death penalty was finally abolished, the guillotines were quietly dismantled and stored in museums. Dr. Guillotin had genuinely believed he was improving the world. He wanted to end suffering and promote equality, but he created a monster. The guillotine proved that technology, no matter how well-intentioned, can be twisted into something horrifying. It reminds us that efficiency is not the same as morality. Just because something works well doesn't mean it should be used. Dr. Guillotin spent the rest of his life haunted by the machine that bore his name. His family even petitioned to have its name changed, but the request was denied. The guillotine is a stark reminder that good intentions are not enough, that progress can be twisted into terror, and that sometimes the tools we create to save lives end up taking them instead. For more untold stories from history, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.